Welcome back. Welcome back from the doozy of week three. As I warned you in week two, week three was going to be a doozy. And hopefully you got through it okay. Obviously, you're here with us still. You're still alive. That's good. And this week, we're beginning module three, your work in the world. And what that means to you is we're going to be discussing how to define your ideal clientele and how to create and hone your extended offering, and also how to implement the evolutionary sales system. And really, mostly that's about how to turn your initial consultations into results, into actual turning your prospects into clients. Now, that's going to be module three, so we're not going to do that all this week. This week, we're going to focus on defining your ideal clientele. But in other words, those three things is really discovering who you want to sell to or who to be in service of, what to sell them so you know what the heck to do once you find them, and then how to sell it. That, in a nutshell, is module three. So let's get right down to defining your ideal clientele. So first of all, why would you want to do this? Why? And literally, it's so that you can find them. It's so that you can design an offering that will serve them and is attractive to them, and so that you can market to them, so that you can do it effectively. This will impact your offering, your messaging, your branding, and really everything. The biggest mistake coaches and practitioners make is trying to market and appeal to and serve everyone. And often somebody says, quite rightly, but everybody needs my service, or, I can help anybody. I can work with anyone who can afford me. And some of the beliefs out there is that you don't want to lose business opportunities by excluding anyone. And, these are valid statements and certainly valid concerns. In other words, they're true, and you could work with anyone. None of those statements are false. They're in fact true. And when you attempt to appeal to everyone, you end up being remembered by no one. Your marketing ends up being too general to appeal to anyone in specific. And the truth is, once you distinguish and clarify who you are serving, as well as what your specific offering and branding are, then your business will increase, not decrease. It's a bit counterintuitive, but literally by excluding people, by honing in on the specific, you become more memorable and you actually attract more people. You will attract more people for the very reason that you are speaking directly into their experience. The truth is, you'll be more memorable. And the truth is, there's tons of business out there for those who know these truths of marketing. And there's business enough that you could not have to serve just anyone. You don't have to serve just anyone. So who do you want to be in service of? What do you want to work with? Who do you want to work with? Now, what kind of client would be fun and fulfilling for you to work with? Believe me, every time you take on a client that is someone or has problems, you can help. But it will be less than fun and fulfilling for a whole host of reasons that are worse grueling. And that is time and energy, and often twice as much spent on and with your ideal client that is not available for the ideal client. In common business parlance of the economics, these are opportunity costs. So let's get right into defining your ideal clientele. Is it a man or a woman or both? And if you don't already have something to write with, or, well, go ahead and pause the recording now and get that. You're going to want to write this or type this somewhere. So whatever you have been taking notes in, go ahead and get that now. Go ahead and pause the recording now. Perfect. Okay, let's go. So, man or woman or both? Is gender important? Or is it a couple? What's the age range? And interesting note here, I actually have a general policy of not working with anybody under the age of 25. for a whole host of reasons, but not the least of which is that the brain isn't actually fully developed until the age of 25. So any change is unpredictable. There's also just, whether or not they've experienced enough life to understand the need for change yet. Although some people in the coming generation understand that it's just part of life is that you must develop yourself. But I still wait until the age of at least 25. What's their financial bracket or their income level? What's the minimum that they're making at least? But what's the bracket range, the income bracket range you want to work with? Do they have a political affiliation? Is that even important to you? What are their values? What's important to them in life and in the world? What are their ultimate concerns about the world? One of the ways I like to think about this is if they were independently wealthy, what would they be an advocate for, or what would they be an activist for? And if the first mistake or the biggest mistake that coaches make and practitioners make is thinking that they can appeal to everyone and therefore they end up being memorable to no one, is marketing to their own value set. Now, you may want to do that consciously, but often people will send me marketing copy and they say, what do you think of this? Do you think it's effective? And I have to ask, well, who are you trying to be effective with? Because usually it's just something that would appeal to them. And, I've certainly made the same mistake myself in the past. So it needs to be, would it appeal to your ideal clientele? And of course I can't answer that unless you've defined it. So what would they be an activist for? What's important to them in life and in the world? What are their values? What kind of car do they drive? Is it a Lamborghini or is it a Prius? What type of car, or what class of a car would they drive? What types of problems do they typically struggle with? By the way, this is, whoever thought that money solves problems is really just isn't in touch with reality. I have seen situations and been privy to situations where billionaires, children are suing each other largely because there are emotional issues that they're struggling with, and here they are really suing siblings over billions of dollars because they can't talk. Those are really high quality problems, we might think, but they're also very complex problems. But are they struggling with relationship issues? Are they struggling with health issues? What is it they're struggling with? And obviously the idea there is that you would like to solve or that you do not want to work with and solve. There are certain things I have no interest in working with, partly because either I haven't mastered them, I don't consider them in my area of expertise, or because I just don't want to deal with the kind of underbelly that would be required there. It takes too much out of me or what have you. But also I might know somebody with a greater area of expertise in that area. So, what problems do they have that you would like to solve? And also, what do you not want to work with or solve? What's their education level? Is that important to you? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Where do they hang out? Where do they actually spend their time? So, do they spend time at the yoga studio, or do they spend time, at Club One, or at some other high-end gym, or do they go to church, or what have you? Where do they spend their free time? Where do they hang out? And what associations do they belong to, political or otherwise? Maybe it's the Better Business Bureau or the Small Business Association, or maybe it's some environmental organization or an entrepreneurs organization, or who knows? For some of you, maybe it's they've spent time volunteering at battered women's shelters. I have no idea. But what's important is that you define for yourself what kind of person you want to be working with and flesh that out fully. What associations do they belong to? And really, is geography important perhaps? Maybe you want to work with people only locally or in metropolitan areas. Maybe geography is not important. But you want to flesh them out so thoroughly that you can actually imagine them in the room and walking down the street and places they might go. And really so that you can speak into their experience, so that you can speak into their world. So go ahead and pause the recording now and go through that, back it up if you need to, but go ahead and pause the recording now and define, to whatever degree you can, answer at least the questions that I posed there, those bullet points on the previous screen. So go ahead and pause the recording now and go for it.